and good morning, everybody. Today it's gonna be in English. Welcome to Siente y Trasciende. I'm on a mission to increase the vibration and the consciousness of the planet together with all of you. So today we have a wonderful guest, and I'm gonna wait that she logs in. Here you are. Let's see. So I sent you a request, Melly. Can you see my request? Hey, it says that you cannot join. Maybe here. I'm gonna try again.
There we go.
Wow. Good morning,
Cool.
beautiful.
Good morning to you. It's so early where you are, isn't it?
I know, but it's the only time, for my little kids.
What time do your girls normally wake up?
They wake up at around 6:15. So
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have a full day with them.
well, they go to school.
Okay.
I get them ready,
Cool.
and then we go to school, and then I start here. Melissa, I want to appreciate and thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
I found you through the social media verse, through the page of Jordan Bates, and I saw you were in my beautiful Mexico, in Tulum, right? You were in Tulum?
Yeah. Yeah. I was in Tulum last December.
And then I saw your profile, and I read your post, and I'm like, oh, Melissa has a beautiful frequency. I would love to talk to her, and you answered my message. So thank you very much for accepting.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's just the magic of the internet, right? And being the powerful beings that we are, and what we'll talk about later when we talk about the laws of the universe.
Yes.
It's just that attraction, right? Like, because I feel definitely a resonance with you and that we're vibrating on the same frequency, and these laws exist like outside of space and time. So I just think it's so beautiful and like so powerful to understand how these types of things work.
I know, and it doesn't matter how many kilometers we are apart, we
Yeah.
feel like this connection, and we can see each other, although one day we're gonna have to hug each other, but for now,
Yeah,
through here.
yeah, we definitely will.
Yes, so I want to
Yeah.
introduce you to everyone. So you are, Meli is a certified yoga teacher and a hula hoop artist, and you are studying to be a holistic life coach, right?
Yeah.
This is, well, I really wanted to talk about the flow because I saw you are a hula hoop artist. Wow, I want you to tell me a little bit about this, because talking about how we need to flow these times, and when you have a hobby like this and you just flow, can you tell me how you started with this?
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, hula hooping is like my favorite thing ever. It's something that I've been doing for about 7 years now. And it's just one of those things that since I've found it and picked it up, I've just never ever put it down because it's my endless source of inspiration and you can just never run out of things to do with it. So how I got started was about 7 years ago. I was going to music festivals and I saw a few girls doing it there, and I felt so attracted to it. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that there was more that you can do than just the waist hooping. And so me and my best friend got into it together, and we each like got a hoop off of somebody on Craigslist. And I remember this guy like custom made mine for me, and it was like one of those big giant ones. And we picked it up and we actually started watching tutorials on YouTube, and just going in the backyard, like super grassroots, and just learning and taking these different tutorials, and we would try different tricks and drills. And for the first, few years, it was all just like learning, 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 and you're trying so hard to find your flow, get to that space of no mind where you're just doing it without having to think about it. But it takes the body a few years to catch up with that and be able to do it without thinking about it, right? It's like your physical body and your mind are kind of like two different entities. So now that I'm this far in, I will never ever put it down. It's just something that brings me so much joy and so much inspiration. Like, not only do I love doing it myself, but I just love watching other people do it. And I'll see somebody do something and be like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. And then I'll just pick it up and do it. And I'm like, oh, wow, like I didn't even know that was possible. So my favorite part about it, though, that I think is so special is that every time I pick up that hula hoop, I go into the flow state.
It's like a
And
meditative state, right? I guess.
yeah, it's like a movement meditation. And in those moments, I'm literally not thinking about anything else. Like, I'm just doing the next move in the next moment, not thinking about the past or the future. I'm just completely present, and I'm reaching this state of just like utter peace. And that's why I really think it's so beneficial for everybody to find some kind of movement practice that they
Yes.
resonate with, that will get them into that state. Because truth be told, like, we have a lot of trapped energy in our bodies, and if we're
Exactly.
not consistently like moving that out,
Yes.
then it gets stuck, and it manifests in different ways of like, disease and disharmony and dissatisfaction with life. And it's happening all at this subconscious level, so we don't even like
We are not
consciously
aware.
realize it. Yeah, so I know that like certain things aren't for everyone, like running's not for everyone, but I do think that there is something for everyone when it comes to movement. You just have to explore different types and find what works for you.
Yeah, well, we are alive, just okay. If you don't resonate with something, it's okay. You don't have to stick to that, right? You have many
Hmm.
other options to try. And also, yeah, for example, me watching you as an outsider, it looks like magnificent. I'm like, wow, like I want to have that flow in a movement. I do a lot of I do other sports, but okay. And now I listen to you, and yeah, it looks so easy. But then you tell me that it takes like everything while we are alive, it takes a lot of practice because we are an habit, like
Hmm.
make it an habit, right?
Yeah, like they say, it takes, like 20,000 hours to master a skill,
Yes.
and I've literally put 7 years into it, like consistent years. Like, there hasn't been like a full month I've gone without doing it since the beginning. And so it's just really important to know, like, yeah, if you want to master something, it's inevitable. If you're dedicated and you put that time and intention into it, then it's bound to happen. But it does take commitment, and most importantly, it takes consistency. Like, just putting a little drop in the bucket every day
Yes.
adds up. Like, think about if you practice. I see actually girls that just started maybe like 1 or 2 years ago, and they're doing things that like I cannot do. And to me, it's like, yeah, it's just a mix of passion with excitement, and then putting that like dedication with intention and consistency is like the recipe to get anything done in this life that you want to do.
Exactly, and respect
Yeah.
everyone's journey, right? Try to not compare. It's inevitable to stop comparing, but you just be in that flow and keep improving 1% daily, right?
Yeah, and just finding that thing that really feels exciting for you, you know, because we can't fake it. We can't ever lie to ourselves. And we like to compare, but like we're all on our own individual journey. And so find the thing that resonates with you, whether that's movement or some way to be of service. And it just gives your life so much meaning because that's your personal journey. And to be able to see yourself progress and like get better, there's nothing more gratifying than that. So
I agree.
movement medicine.
Yes, yes. I would like you to tell us something about your healing journey, talking about the well-being. How did you start in this healing journey?
Yeah, totally. So you know, I was born into this world just like everyone else, a little bit confused about what I was doing here, kind of like not too sure about the direction I wanted to take with my life. And I was lucky enough to realize pretty early on that I didn't want to go to college unless I was like deeply passionate about something because I was like not super into high school. I always felt kind of like the loner or like the raver chick or something like that. And, you know, I was heading down a path of regular mediocrity, right? Like I had in my early 20s, like a nice house and a really good job, and I was making a lot of money and things, you know, from the outside for societal standards for me seemed really well. Like I was doing great. But also along with that, I was like drinking a lot of alcohol. I was eating the standard American diet, or the SAD as I like to call it. And just deep down, like I felt like something was missing and I knew that there was more. And from the time that I was pretty young, I was hearing like these voices in my head that were like, you should go travel. Like you should see what's up. Like there's a lot more to life than this little bubble that you've been born into. So I acted on that. And when I turned 22, I bought a one-way flight to Australia, just completely by myself. Nobody picking me up on the other side. And I just went and I left. And it turned into a 5-year journey. So I
Five
ended up
years.
going, yeah, I ended up going to like 13 countries, working all over in like farm work and cafes. I ended up buying a van about halfway through that and touring around the US and California. And there were like a few times in there that I would try to move home, but my soul was just like, you're not done yet. Like, you got to
Yes.
keep going. And so I started getting into healing just from having so many different experiences that really just transformed my worldview and helped me realize like what was possible for myself and what was possible for my life. And then I was starting to notice patterns about, you know, the way that modern day society works. And I'm like, is this really the food that we're meant to be eating? Like, are we really meant to be inside of these boxes all day, like sitting down? Like, I just know in my heart that there was more than that, right? And so a few years ago, I kind of like snapped out of my bad habits and started getting interested in plants and different types of herbs and like studying botany a little bit. And then from there, I started making like vegan desserts and just starting to feel better in my body. I stopped drinking so much. And
I
um,
want to thank you for mentioning that. I have family members looking at this talk, but the
mhm,
reality in my life as well is that there was a period like 10 years ago that I was also in the alcohol, and I was like, you get just this feeling that at the end you just have this not happiness, right? That you just want to get
yeah.
to
Mhm,
get out, and when you finally listen to your voice and get out, it's not like I don't drink a cocktail now. I like it, but in a way
mhm,
different that than that time that I was
mhm.
not loving
Yeah.
myself. It all, for me, it all resumes in loving yourself and respecting yourself, right?
Yeah,
And the
totally.
importance of setting boundaries when you respect your body, when you put a boundary to your relationships, like everything starts
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, it all comes to the very root of like loving yourself and having this greater understanding that like you deserve more than this, but also knowing how your choices and actions are manifesting in your life, right? Like I've been completely sober for a few months now for the first time, like ever. This is the longest I've gone, and it's really, really fascinating just how clear of a channel you become and how much more you're able to really like reflect on your actions and just become this clear channel for life to move through you. And yeah, I feel a lot less anxiety and like any kind of, these feelings that arise when you like wake up after a night of drinking and you're like, yeah, that might have been fun, but now I'm paying for it like the whole rest of the next day. And I think alcohol really just like severs our connection with spirit and
Yeah, and
puts
being
us
able
away from
to
ourselves.
exactly, and being able to connect with our intuition, right? Because we lose
hmm
consciousness and we get disconnected from our intuition.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, anyone that's interested in sobriety, like it's really worth it to give it a shot. And it's okay to drink every once in a while and smoke. Like it's not inherently a bad thing, but it's just how it's abused in modern day culture where we use it to socialize because we don't want to feel like those awkward feelings of interactions, and we use it as a crutch, instead of like a celebration. I think like if you want to celebrate something and it's a special occasion, that's perfect, but if you're doing it because it's a Friday night and you don't want to feel your feelings and that's just your habit of what you do, then I think that that's like a pattern that really needs to be looked at and dealt with.
Yes, yes, and how we choose to live our life now is more important than ever. I think that this 2021, we just have to switch, because we
hmm
were, okay, 2020 worldwide like shaked us so hard, but now we
hmm
can use our intelligence to really connect with the co-creators of our higher selves that we are, to make better realities and stop drowning
hmm
in the insert uncertainty. How do you say?
Uncertainties, yeah.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing that I like about being in this healing journey is when we individually do it, automatically everything that's around us starts having a kind of a resonance, right? And you
hmm
and that's
Yeah,
magic when you see how when you put the effort in your life, you see your family around you lighter than before. What?
yeah, completely. Yeah, it reminds me of, like when you change, then everything around you changes, and not until then, right? It's like we think we can wait around for something outside of us to change so that we can take action on our lives, but it's until we start to really hold up that mirror and look inward that we're
Exactly.
going to find what we're looking for, right? It's never going to be out there. It's always like coming from inside, and until we decide and choose to look at that and kind of go back and deal with our traumas, re-meet our inner child, sort out the blockages and the trapped emotions that are keeping us stuck in these patterns of unconsciousness. We're always going to keep on the same wheel and the same path. And I think like this time, like you said, is so important because it's time to choose. It's time to choose. Do you want to keep going down this predictable path that has led us to this place of destruction and chaos,
And separation.
or and separation completely, not only with everyone around us, but with ourselves? Like we don't know ourselves and like understand ourselves anymore. So we're just like seeking all this external validation. And as Ross says in the law of one material, have you ever heard of it?
Tell, no, tell me.
So it's a channeled text and so channeling is when you have a human vessel
Ah,
that
channeling.
that is like
Yes,
getting a stream of consciousness
yes,
from a
yes,
higher
yes,
source. Yeah.
yes.
So there's a text. It's called the Law of One. The raw material, it's so good. It's really dense though and like hard to comprehend. So a lot of people over the years have done a good job of like kind of translating it into more simpler terms for us to understand. But basically, he says that like we're in the fourth density right now, and it's the density of choice. So it's time to choose if we're going to be of service to self or service to other. And service to other is choosing love. It's the quote unquote higher path, if you will, or the more aligned path, where service to self is kind of just going to stay in this destructive pattern. And so right now we really have an opportunity to choose if we want to align with the love vibration
Yes.
or stay aligned with the fear vibration. And from what I've gathered and collected more than ever recently is that the train is leaving the station, and whatever you choose now is just gonna compound itself more and more into your life from here on out, because it is such an intense time, and we are going through this like really deep rebirthing process. And when I look at all the chaos that's happening in the world, to me, I feel really at peace with it, because the old systems and structures in place
Yeah.
that are just completely raping our world are
Yes.
not in alignment with love. It's not in alignment with where humanity is heading. And so it all needs to be brought to the forefront in order for it to fall away and diminish. And we need to become aware of it so that we can say no. We can say, thanks so much for serving us in the past.
Yes.
I think everything needs to play out exactly as it does. But now I say no, and I'm going to choose a different path for myself. And so I think that this time is like just, it's so powerful and it's so exciting. And I think that we incarnated here at this time for this specific event in this specific moment.
I love it to
Mm-hmm.
leave behind the density and become lighter and really
Mm-hmm.
connect with the light inside us to a
Yeah.
brighter
Mm.
future
Mm-hmm.
with love that
Yeah. With
we all
lots of
need
love.
right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and when we synchronize with God and the divinity, like everything flows in a
Mm-hmm.
better way. So let's just
Yeah.
continue doing it. And when I saw your video talking about the laws of the universe, I mentioned you that there's this metaphysics book that I read all the time, but I told you like I really want to memorize it. Sometimes I forget it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just important to keep, like you said, with the law of one, to keep reading and rereading until we keep
Mm-hmm.
absorbing all these, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, completely.
we can start talking about the laws of the universe if you want.
Yeah, totally. And I think too, an important point that you just made, it's like, you read it once and the seed is planted, but in order to like truly retain information, we need to be repeating that in our minds. We need to like make those neural pathways, right? And so you can read it, and then you can actually go out and experience these laws in your life. And really, like, that's when you get the wisdom, is when you understand a concept and then you have an experience of it, and then it really sinks into your mind. And then when you're able to like talk about it to somebody else is when you've officially like rewired that neural pathway in your brain. So just being back to being consistent, right? It's like learning stuff takes time. It takes experience and a lot of practice. But I think that these natural laws are just like so fundamental and important to know that anybody can benefit from having this knowledge in their mind and using them in their life.
Yeah, and like the teacher said all the time, like, don't believe it. You don't have to believe it. You just have to practice it and put it in practice in your life. And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, okay. But
Yeah.
the reality is that you will know that it works, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So I'll just talk a little bit about what these principles are. So they're referred to as universal laws or natural laws. And basically what they are or are non-man-made, so not created by man. They're immutable, so they are unchanging, and they're binding. So we are bound to these principles so long as we exist in this third dimensional reality. And basically they act as governing dynamics of consciousness, and they keep us accountable for the consequences of our choices and behaviors. So they're this really cool system that has been put in place by the creator of the universe, if you will. And it's here to help us understand morality, to help us understand what is the fundamental difference between right action and wrong action. Because, you know, as we'll talk about with like the law of effect, the law of cause and effect, everything you do has a ripple effect and it comes back to you. And so these laws are like really practical, powerful ways to kind of view life and like use them as a roadmap in order to create the reality that you truly desire. And they really truly give us all the power because we create our reality, right? But if
yes,
you don't understand how energy works and you know how the pendulum swings, and some days you're going to have good days and bad days, then we're left feeling really confused and not understanding how to move forward in our lives in the way that we wish to. So
yes,
these laws have actually been hidden from us, if you will, occulted,
yes.
um, by, you know, the 1% or the cabal, because, you know, if this information was in the hands of everyone, then the world, I don't think, would be the way that we see it today, because people would be a lot more
Wiser.
accountable for their actions. Yeah, a lot
Yes.
more wisdom going around.
Yeah, and free and lighter and less dense and
Hmm.
grasping into the unity instead of the
Yeah.
division that we are right now.
Yeah, so I think like one of the most powerful works that anybody could be doing at this time is to help spread awareness of these laws,
Yes,
because they have the power to like really change lives.
let's do it. And that's
Yeah.
why I have you here, because I want to spread awareness and I want all of us to be a team and really start.
Yeah. So I had an idea. So as we go through the laws,
Yes,
there's the seven of them.
yes,
Maybe do you want to read, you know, from what the description is in the book, just like the short one, the caveat about it, and then
yes.
I can expand on that and kind of see how those would apply to life or more ways to think about it.
Yeah, I love your idea.
Okay.
So the first rule, the first law of the universe is the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. And what I understand that this is the fundamental law, right? After this, the other ones are created, but this is the most important one.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So the law of mentalism, when I think about it, to me, it really is the law of creation. Like, we are the creators of our reality. And in order for anything to manifest in the physical world, it must have first originated as a thought or an idea. And the law of mentalism is powerful because it holds us accountable for the way that we perceive the world, right? Like, we can look at the world through the lenses of lack, where nothing is ever enough. The world is dangerous. People are out to get me. Or we can look at the world through the lenses of love and abundance, where there's enough to go around. People have my best interests in mind. The world is a safe place. And the thing is, like, reality is inherently neutral, and it's the meaning that we attach to it that makes it so. And you'll always find proof for the evidence that you're looking for, because there's always going to be a plethora, like a silver platter of information going around, that you can pick up on and grasp. Like you can, it's like what you're choosing to focus on is what's real for you. It's what you're creating in your life. And so when we look at it this way, we turn into the creator instead of the victim, right? It's like life isn't happening to you, it's happening from you. And what you choose to focus on is what becomes real for you. So it all originates up here. And
Exactly.
if we can learn to make friends with our mind, then we'll have a much easier, more flowy reality.
And use our intelligence right now, because the stimulus that we get from the outside, once you know this, like you say, it wants to be hidden from us. But when you listen to what they're telling us, the outside, like the news that they're transmitting, it's incredible how they want to keep the mind vibrating in a fear state, which is a low vibration that goes into the
Mm-hmm.
collective, and then it has the reaction, right? Because they just keep
Mm-hmm.
spreading these low vibration things to our
Mm-hmm.
minds. But that's where we
Yeah.
have to be sobering ourselves and stop consuming all that trash.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything that you consume matters. And a lot of the time when we think of what we consume, we just think of food, right? Like I consume what I eat, but it's also what you watch, what you listen to, who you hang around. Like environment is so, so, so critical for our growth and for our happiness. Because if you're in an environment where you don't feel safe, then your nervous system is going to be like on high alert, um, in the sympathetic mode, like just causing all of these negative emotions to like run through your body, and then that triggers the same patterns and the same thoughts over and over again. And as we'll talk in the law of vibration, like these, like everything affects us, even if it's not consciously. It's really interesting that the subconscious mind accounts for 95% of our behavior, where the conscious mind is just 5%. And so we think, 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a single day. And all of this stuff is happening kind of like below the surface. If you've ever seen that picture of like the iceberg, and there's like the tip of the iceberg, and then the huge part of it
Yes.
is below, and that's how the subconscious mind operates. So if we want to like really create changes in our lives and create the reality that we desire, we need to like realize that we're working here on the subconscious level, and that everything that we're consuming is becoming a part of us.
Yeah.
Your nothing goes past your subconscious mind. Like it's recorded literally every single event from your life, every word that someone said. Like we can see this in our dreams, right? It's like you dream about something that happened from your childhood, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And it's like skewed in this weird way. And yeah, so everything that you consume matters, and especially like what's in your environment, and you need to make sure that you feel safe.
Yeah, and what you said, that 95%, it's really installed into us, right? Is the
Mhm.
programming that we received of the system that we are right now. Not
Mhm.
being connected with ourselves, but that's where we are here to raise awareness and connect with that power, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're taught to like seek, the outside sources for the information, but yeah, the real information comes from inside. It's that inner guidance system, and it exists within everyone.
Yes, and we're gonna continue with the law number two,
Cool.
the principle of correspondence, as above, so
Mhm.
below, as below, so above. And my input on this is that, yeah, we are judging right now the outside of us because it's a reflection from the inside, right?
Mhm.
That's why there is so much importance to work on ourselves. We keep repeating it right now, but Yeah, the outside right now is like that because we don't have the capacity of connect with ourselves and believe in this separation. What do you have to tell about this?
Yeah, so, it's like as above, so below, as within, so without. So your internal environment is the first part, and your external environment is always going to reflect your internal environment. But then another way to look at this is that patterns are universal. And so the quote comes to mind from Carl Sagan, like, we are made of star stuff. And basically, our bodies are made of the same elements as the stars, as everything in the universe.
That's
The
amazing.
fabric of reality is happening on a microscopic level that we cannot perceive with our five senses, but it's all made out of the same materials. So the macrocosm is equal to the microcosm. If we want to understand the macro, we have to like look inside and deal with the micro. And so we can also see this unfolding in nature. Like the Fibonacci sequence, for example, is like this mathematical equation that repeats itself endlessly in nature. And so you can see the way that, a plant like fractals more parts of itself. It's just like this ever evolving, growing consciousness that repeats the same patterns over and over again, because at its very core, it's all made out of the same materials,
Yes,
which is exciting.
it's very exciting and understand the nature of cycles. That the what you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
We are in a cyclic pattern, and we just have to be aware and just calm about this and use the
Yeah.
intelligence.
Yeah, there's
And
nothing new under the sun, right? Like everything's
exactly,
already happened and been thought. So,
yes,
yeah, we just have to find our place in that.
exactly. And the number three, one of my favorites, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates.
This one is my favorite one too, because I think that understanding this one is like the best foundation to build everything else upon. Because when you understand like kind of how the universe works and the law of attraction, then you can really start to get on that plane of cause and out of the state of effect. So basically, how this one works, the law of vibration, is that everything in our reality is made of energy. It's like the thing that's weaving our reality together. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. It simply just takes on new forms. And energy is always moving. It's in a constant state of motion. It never rests. So the speed or velocity at which the energy is moving creates a frequency. And like frequencies attract like frequencies through resonance. So this is where we start to get into the law of attraction a little bit. It's like the vibration that you're resonating at will match things in your environment and then attract those specific circumstances, people, things into your life that are a match to what you need in that moment to evolve, to learn, to grow. So something we can look at is emotions. Each emotion holds its own specific vibrational pattern. So sadness from fear to anger to happiness to
Anxiety.
joy to love, they all have their own vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
And you can think about it as like the heavier the emotion, the heavier the vibration. And when the vibration is heavier, it's moving slower, and therefore it has less access to light and information.
Yes.
And so you're not able to be that conduit, that clear channel that we spoke of earlier. So this is why, it's important to keep track of your emotions, right? Because the emotions aren't coming from us. Like we're the radio antenna, and they're happening all around us, and
Yes.
we're picking up on them because we're matching to them. And we can sometimes get into these patterns in our mind where we'll recall a past memory, and that memory is attached to a specific emotion. And as we recall the memory, then the body releases the chemicals that start that emotion running through and it runs through our whole system. And the thing about the nervous system and the subconscious mind is it doesn't exist in time. Like, it thinks that it's happening right now, what may have happened years ago. So becoming aware of this is super crucial if you want to start attracting things into your life that are beneficial for you, the things that you desire, because otherwise, our brains are a computer, right? And if these memories are stored in our hard drive and we're just letting them replay out over and over again, it's like doing a number to our nervous system. And then we start to attract more thoughts like that and more thoughts like that. And then you're like, oh, why do I keep attracting like mean partners or like horrible bosses? And it's like, well, because you got to learn that lesson, and you got to like sort that out, otherwise it'll just keep, and set your boundaries. So when we understand, like the mantra that I hold for this one is, what you believe is how you perceive, and the rate at which you vibrate is what you're always going to attract. So we want to like invite these activities in our life that help us vibrate at a higher frequency, like the movement medicine that we talked about, and having a regular sleep schedule and staying hydrated. These are like very basic things, but also, looking at your shadows and your trauma and doing, different types of work that help get it out, like somatics and dance and movement and just really starting to be accountable for the way that we interact with the world.
Definitely. And we continue with the number 4, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. It's hard to understand at the beginning for me that love and hate, it's on the same line, right?
Yeah, so we can look, I made a little note about this one. Let's see, what did I write? So, pain to pleasure, light to dark, happy to sad. These are all ways that we can get to know ourselves in this life, right? Like, we need the opposite of something in order to be able to measure the space between. But since everything is consciousness, like, where do you draw that line between hot and cold? Is it warm? But is there actually a physical line there that says, like, now it's hot, now it's cold? There's not, right? It's like based on our perception of what it is. And I think that polarity is powerful because we're really able to like see it in our external reality. So it's like the easiest one to understand, in my opinion. And it's also really nice to think about, well, you have a problem. According to the law of polarity, the solution already exists then, like within that problem. And so I think that we need to have opposites in order to experience the other, right? And it helps to shape our 3-dimensional experience, because, you can't know darkness without light. You can't know the light without the darkness.
Yeah, I don't know if you can actually heal without being in the dark, right? It's so important to work in our shadows, really. To be able to come into this center and regulate ourselves.
Yeah, life is truly a journey of remembering, right? It's like we come here, we have our memories wiped, and we're like, what am I doing here? Where do I go? And then we're born into a society that's like, do these things, the mind will tell you what to do. And then your heart's like screaming like, no, just listen to me. Like, I know all the answers. And life is really confusing until you start to turn inward and know yourself, because when you know yourself, you know God. And when you know God, you're free, and
Yes.
that exists within each and every person. So I consider polarity, yeah, it's that space where we can really get to know ourselves on every level.
Yes. Thank you, Melanie. We
Hmm.
continue with the number 5, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. It's like here what Marcela is writing us there. Enjoy the ups and downs, like the pendulum of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, totally. We can see it, our heart's always beating, the tide is always going in and out. The day turns into night, and today there's just this inherent dance in life, in nature. And I think understanding this law really helps us pull us through, the bad days, because we can look at polarity as well and say, like, all right, I'm having like a good ass day today. That must mean in a few days I'm going to have a really shitty day. And then when you're in those shitty days, you're like, oh, well, if I could feel this bad, then inherently the pendulum's going to swing the other way and I'm going to feel this good, and having that understanding that, it's really not personal. It's just what happens to everyone. You can't stay in one state forever because everything's in a constant state of change. It's always changing. It's always fluctuating. That is just like the truth of life, is everything changes from moment to moment. And so the more we can learn to ride that wave and not take the bad days so personally, but really take them as like, oh, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing me this side of myself. I
Yes,
accept you. I
yes,
love you. Like, what can I learn from this? It
yes,
really helps us embrace like the nature of what it means to be human and have all these emotions and like crazy frequencies around us all the time.
yeah. Raise the frequency of our mind above the material plane,
Hmm.
right? And another good one, the principle of cause and effect, the number 6. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens
Hmm.
according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. It's karma, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I really like this one, because I think that it's the one that holds us accountable for our actions, right? It's like everything that you do flings itself out into existence and then just brings itself right back to you. And when we can become aware of the patterns, right? Because life is all about pattern recognition. It's like, oh, when I, lie or do something that's immoral, then, I'm attracting more of that into my life because that's the vibration that I'm resonating at. Or, when I make a generous act or act on abundance, then that's also what comes back to me. So I think that cause and effect is all about free will choice. And it's getting us out of the role of victim and into the role of victor, because we can begin
Oh,
to
that's amazing.
understand why things are happening to us or for us or with us, and what our role in that is, like how powerful each and every choice that we make is, because it's going to determine, the next wormhole that your life spirals into. So cause and effect is a big one. I think it's like truly governing and holding us accountable for our actions in this,
Yes, I definitely agree with
like,
you.
right
And
away, but
the last one,
there's,
right?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Uh, the last one, the number 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. I would like to make a comment on this one, and I want you to tell me what you think. In my country, in Mexico, we have this. for example, polarities of, for the masculine, it will be called machismo, and for the feminine will be the feminism movement. But as we have been talking, the magic for me will happen would happen at the middle, like when the masculine meets the feminine in a flow state that respects each other without going to the complete feminine or complete masculine, right? I don't know what you think about this.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly right. I think that one cannot exist without the other, but it is the balance of those two that really bring balance to the world, right? It's like their gender exists within everything, but if you lean too far one way or too far the other way, then it throws you out of balance. We can look at this in the brain, how the brain works. We have our left brain, which is more male dominated. It's about the intellect, having a plan, mathematical, logical, whereas the right brain is more feminine and it's more intuitive. It's based on feelings and emotions. It's more of like the flowy energy. And we can really see the left brain playing out, at least in the States, in modern day society, where we place so much importance on logic and science, which is not bad, it's not wrong, but we completely disregard the intuition, the heart's compass, and therefore we're throwing life out of balance because we're like, oh, I'll just, cut down all these trees because that, like, logically I can build my house with that. And, the feminine's like, but then it's going to like throw the world out of balance if there's not enough trees. So yeah, I think that finding the balance, that place of neutrality,
yes,
for all of these things is like so important. Polarity as well, because the more that we like identify and cling to an extreme, I think the more that we leave out possibilities for everything in between, because life is not black and white by any means. It's like a rainbow hologram.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that. In this book that I read about metaphysics, it says about the gender, the science is the masculine, and the religion is the feminine, and they keep fighting and back and forth when both of them are crucial and important. Like, we are not science is amazing. We have to be questioning everything in our life, like, before just believing what is being fed to us. Question, connect to your intuition, resonates with you or not, but just stop saying only to one, going to one side of the balance, into science or into religion. Find the magic middle point.
Yeah, that resonates so much, because, what could we create if we, stopped looking at what's different and started working together and contributing what each side has to offer. And so I think, that's so beautiful.
Oh, Meli, I love this talk. I want to thank you so much for your time, and I want to thank everybody that was connected, from Mexico, from the US, I don't know who else, from here, from Spain. I saw a friend. I want to thank everybody. This was a magnificent talk, and I could feel like the love frequency and all. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for inviting me on here. And I'd love to collaborate again in the future and maybe like get this out there even more, because I think it's powerful work that we're doing. So thank you for having this and for sharing your light and being curious and being like such a powerful light in this world. I really appreciate you.
I love you, sister.
I love you too.
Have a great day.
You too.
We'll
See you later.
touch. Bye.
Yeah, we'll be in touch soon. Bye.